All right, Ms. Compean, I want to welcome you here. You are here today for the position of Assistant Principal for the Northeast Independent School District. First of all, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
I love my job as a teacher, and I've had a really good experience working with the population that I have worked with, special needs population, but I've also liked helping kids in the general ed curriculum, being able to tie that together in some events, some activities, and um, I'm at a point where I'd like to advance my skills and uh, go into something a little bit more challenging where I can help them from a different perspective, help their families.
Okay. Tell me about the educational and practical experience that have prepared you for this assistant principal position.
Well, I have to work with teacher assistants, and it's a lot of communication, planning, organizing, delegating, and it's not me just working with all the kids all the time because of their different needs. So I have to get the teacher assistants to, I have to teach them about the students. I have to teach them skills or strategies that I've learned. We grow together, and we put a plan in place that is best for the program that I'm either working with, or a lesson or a concept that we're trying to achieve, or trying to get the kids to achieve. And so I feel like planning and in that experience in planning with the teacher assistants and collaborating with my colleagues, and discussing any goals with my any upper management, that helps me achieve goals. And it's all data driven, it's all student centered, and that's like a small scope of what I would be doing as an assistant principal that has a much larger scope. But I feel like those skills can translate into more more challenging role.
Thank you. All right, please give an example of an experience when you documented a teacher who was not performing up to expectations. So let's say if you have teaching assistants, was there any ever a time where you had to document they were being insubordinate, anything like that? Because as assistant principal, that's going to be one of your many jobs, is keeping track of the teachers. Are they doing what they're supposed to? Are lesson plans being done? Are they following student IEPs? Are they following 504 plans? So just give me an example.
One of the examples I had was I did have to go ahead and go with my supervisor and let her know that it was time to go ahead and write up a teacher assistant. I had the problem that we were having was his tone and choice of words towards students. And so it was being adverse to their production, and it wasn't something that was benefiting the student. It had to do with respect of the student, and it also had to do with other students hearing that, other employees hearing that. If I am allowing that to happen in my classroom, then I give the impression that I'm okay with that type of behavior. And so while we're there to demonstrate and teach our kids appropriate behavior, we also have to model it, and we have to walk it. So once I had, I felt like I followed my own steps where, I would make a comment, maybe let's try something different. If you talk to him this way, if you notice he's kind of shutting down, let's try to do it a different approach. And then it went to, when it continued, where I was talking to all teacher assistants and sort of blanketing the expectation, and just to remind them that, just because our students don't understand or don't seem to understand academics, it doesn't mean that they don't understand or they don't sense a tone. And so I blanketed it over where it was something that I didn't want to just target that one individual. I wanted to make sure that that individual also knew that that was an expectation for everybody. After that happened, I went to individual conversations with with my teacher assistant, and it did maybe take. I feel like it took me longer than it should have to go ahead and write him up, but I was trying to give him the opportunity to self-correct,
Mm-hmm.
and also give him the opportunity to hear that, hey, I'm doing something that's not okay, and it's even affecting student performance. And when that didn't work, I did say, you know what, it's time for me to write him up.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing about it is that once he was written up, he became a better employee,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see that he was trying, and even the students were gravitating more towards him after a couple of weeks, and so that's the good thing. The sad part for me is that I had to get there, but it is a step that I realized that it's necessary for some people, that you have to get to that part in order for them to realize this isn't okay, and it gives them a chance to be a better employee. And in this case, it seems that it did work.
Okay. As an assistant principal, you will be doing observation and walkthroughs. So if you were conducting walkthroughs and noticed the same teacher at his desk over and over again while students were working on worksheets, what actions would you take?
I think that I'd like to, as I walked in, I know sometimes you can catch
Mm-hmm.
a teacher at the most inopportune time.
Exactly.
So they could have been teaching for 45 minutes,
Yes.
and then I walked in on the 46th minute when
Mm-hmm.
they're not working. And so after I went a few times, I would like to go and ask him to point out to me, like, oh, what is it that we're working on, and kind of take an inquisitive approach,
Mm-hmm.
and see where he's coming from or where she's coming from, and have them educate me on what their expectations are in the classroom, what they're covering, and see if I can somehow dig for that evidence that he is aligning the lessons to the district curriculum, to the state standards. If I'm not finding that evidence by sort of asking him those questions, see if he can give me that information, and if I'm not finding that evidence around the room, if I'm not finding that evidence within those worksheets, then I might say, you know what, let's go ahead and have a conference and say, okay, this is what I've seen. These are and explain to him, all these days I've come, and I don't want to approach him as, I've got you, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're in trouble.
Yes.
I want to take it as an opportunity to understand where he's coming from, but at the same time still lay out those expectations,
Yes.
so that we know that the kids are not losing, that quality instruction, and also let him know that I know that it's something that he's capable of doing, able to do, and that we value his work,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that there isn't something that he needs that maybe we haven't provided,
Yeah.
that is not allowing him to provide that high quality instruction.
Okay. All right. Tell me about a difficult or stressful situation you encountered as a leader and how you resolved it.
I usually don't get stressed when it comes to the students. I feel like I build a real good rapport with parents, with the students as well. I think the most stressful situation with me is if I've had someone that isn't receptive, and I'm talking about like an employee or
Mm-hmm.
another teacher assistant isn't receptive, and it doesn't follow the IEP, for example.
Okay.
And then I have to have continuous conversations, or I have to get a supervisor involved, because then there's a lot of things to look at there. Am I doing everything I'm supposed to be doing as a teacher? And am I also setting up a healthy environment
Mm-hmm.
where everybody wants to participate and contribute to a positive learning environment? So the most stressful time for me is when I've had to have multiple conversations with a teacher assistant, and when it's gone even up to upper management, and we're still not getting good results for our students, good performance that affects the students in a good way.
Okay. All right. So here's a scenario. You just received a lengthy email from a parent that had a negative tone towards a teacher regarding her child not being challenged during a reading instruction. She demands you address this immediately. How will you handle this situation?
Okay, so the parent is telling me that her child's not being challenged.
Uh-huh.
and she wants me to address it.
Exactly.
Okay. So if I'm, I want to ask her, I want to ask the parent more questions like, maybe give me more examples. What exactly has happened? Have you talked to the teacher? So I don't want to cut that communication between the parent and the teacher. I don't want to take that away from the teacher. I don't want to take that opportunity away from building that good rapport between the teacher and the parent. Once I get as much information as I can from the parent, I do want to discuss it with the teacher and tell her, tell me about, the student, is everything okay with the instruction? Have there been any concerns with a child? And then sort of probe the teacher and see what she tells me. And I do want to let her know that the parent did contact me for that specific reason, because I don't want the teacher to think also that I'm just coming in out of nowhere asking about a specific student.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get the parent side. I'd like to get the teacher side. Now, if the student is 504 or receiving special education services, then I do also want to go over what are the accommodations? Are we getting everything that we need? Where are we at? So I want to give the parent, when I get back with the parent, I do want to first encourage parent conferences and ask, have you met with the teacher? Have you had those parent conferences? Has the teacher answered any questions for you? And if they have, I want to give some good hard data to the parent and make sure, ensure that we are providing, services and that we are challenging the child, and also find out maybe something else is going on, because the first thing is always the child, who is our priority. It might look like he's not being challenged. Maybe the child is just not doing the work. Maybe something's going on. Maybe the child doesn't feel good. There's a lot of variables that can happen that can look like the child is not being challenged. And if in fact the child is not being challenged, then I do want to talk to the teacher and kind of collaborate with her or with him and see, what can we do? What can we do to make sure that this kid is getting, what he needs, and that he is getting that challenging, and that he is making progress.
Thank you. All right, so the last question is, what sets you apart from the other candidates?
I have a lot of experience in special education, and what I've come across a lot as a special education teacher is that there's a lot of fear in general education teachers, because they don't really know how to work with kids with different disabilities. So I feel that the experience that I have and knowing special education law, and also having that experience in how to address different people in different ways, I think I have that strength. And so I'll be able to work with teachers of various backgrounds. Behavior is a big reason why kids are not making progress that they need to make, or they're not maybe in the right placement. I with that knowledge, I think that would help me help the teachers, in turn help the students to also make progress, especially with like state assessments. I think that would give me an opportunity to show my skills on a larger spectrum, and that's a big thing. It's with special education, especially because of the experience that I've had. They don't know that, and then so they either don't want to work with a child, they don't want to work with that, ALE classroom, they don't want to work with, the behavior kids, and their first thing is, he doesn't belong here, she doesn't belong here, or I'm going to write a referral. And I feel that if I can share that knowledge with other teachers, that I can help them grow in that area as well.
How do you stay informed of just state, district, and campus policies?
What was the question?
How do you stay informed of like federal law, state law, education law?
Okay, so we're constantly having meetings, team meetings, and I also I keep a binder to make sure that I keep my information organized, And if there's anything that's completely different than